Hello and welcome. My name is Dan Havey from Solver. Today I'm going to be talking about why funds transfer pricing will make you a stronger bank, stronger credit union, stronger competitor overall. This is another part of our series on enabling world-class decisions for banks and credit unions. Today I'll be showing you a few examples of funds transfer pricing using BI 360 by Solver. BI 360 can be deployed on-premise as well as cloud. Real quickly, BI 360 is a reporting analytics tool that can gather data from any data source, put it into a data warehouse, and then use Excel front end for reporting, planning, dashboards. And you can consume all those reports and dashboards either still in Excel or via a web portal. All right, before we get into funds transfer pricing, I want to use an analogy here that'll help explain why funds transfer pricing is important. Here I've got a spreadsheet called Chicago Teams, and I'm listing average scores, and you'll notice the asterisk. All scores are fictitious, so if you're a Chicago fan, please don't call right in and say, hey, those scores are wrong. This is for presentation purposes only. But as you can see, I've got my various teams, Dub Airs, the White Sox, the Cubbies, the Bulls, and the Chicago Fire soccer team. And you can see for each of the teams, I've totaled all their scores, 134.4 in 2017 versus last year, a little bit of improvement. But if you're a sports fan, this information is kind of meaningless without how these teams compare to the competition. For instance, how do the Chicago Bears compare to the New England Patriots, especially as they compete against each other? So that's the problem with a lot of bank reports I see today, is they list their products, their yields, their rates, over time versus last year versus budget, but it really doesn't give you a lot of insight as are those products competitive. So I'm going to flip over to a yield rate analysis for a bank. And here we're looking at month-to-date January this year versus month-to-date January of last year versus the budget. And with BI 360, we can look at any data, whether it's a loan trial, a deposit trial, general ledger trial, and calculate all sorts of good information. So let me just go ahead and update this. Right now I'm looking at January, and I'll update for, say, February. Rerun my report, and you can see my numbers update automatically. Nice thing about BI 360 is you can drill directly into your data, whether it's general ledger data, loan data, deposit data. So all my information is right here at my fingertips. Now this report is very useful. Obviously, all banks and credit unions have something like this, where they're listing the individual products, their interest rate, and the breakout fees, the fee portion, and then the yield. And again, I'm comparing it to this month, to last year, to budget. But how do I know commercial loan interest rate of 7.10% versus 8.36% versus a budget of 7.10 is good, is bad? I have no idea because I have no competition. And that's the whole value of funds transfer pricing. So let's switch screens here a little bit, and I'll talk about a little bit of the concept. When I take in a deposit, whether it's a checking account where I'm not paying interest, or it's a 12-month CD, in theory, what I'm doing is I'm taking that depositor's money and putting it into a very safe investment without any risk. And here I'm looking at U.S. Treasuries. So if I take a checking account where I'm not paying any interest, that money can go out of the bank any minute, overnight. There's no restrictions on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into a treasury that is very liquid. So if that customer needs to pull out all their money, I can sell this treasury pretty quickly and not have any cancellation fees. So if I took in a deposit on, say, January 3rd, 2017, I'm going to put it in a U.S. Treasury earning 52 basis points, or 0.5%, if you will. If I take in that same deposit or a different deposit on, say, January 5th, and it's a 12-month CD, what I'm going to do is go ahead and rather than invest it overnight or in a very liquid U.S. Treasury, I'm going to purchase a one-year Treasury at 83 basis points, or 0.83%. And so what I'm doing is I'm increasing my earnings potential by 30 basis or 32 basis points. So that's the concept of funds transfer pricing for deposits. When a deposit comes in, I'm going to invest it in something very safe on that same day. And it's going to be based on its maturity or expected maturity. If it's a 6-month CD, 2-year CD, 3-year CD, etc. And obviously, the further I can tie up that customer's money or have a commitment from that customer, they're going to leave it with my credit union or bank, then I can go after a higher yield. So that's my competition. And as you can see, just in 2017, the 3-year yield is changing all the time. It's changing all the time. So as a bank, I want to capture that. And so what they do is they'll take these rates and they'll put it in a rate table. This one is just simply capturing the average rate for the month. And then each month I just enter in a new layer of rates. So for February, and I'm just tracking 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months to make it simple. You can track as many rates as you want. When you close the books at each month, you'll take those CDs that are 1 month, 3 month, 12 month, those demand deposits, compare them against the 1 month rate or maybe an overnight rate, the Fed funds rate. You're going to do the same thing with the loans. When I lend out a loan for a car, and let's say it's a 3-year car loan, and I'm going to lend it out, in this case, let's say I'm lending it out at 5%. The flip side is I'm going to cash in that U.S. Treasury that I've invested in. It's very safe. And I'm going after a higher yield that has more risk. That borrower could default. They could wreck the car and ruin the collateral. So there's always a little bit associated risk. Plus, I got to pay my lender. I've got to pay my loan servicing support staff to process payments, all that type of stuff. So I'm going to lend out this 3-year Treasury at 5.5%, or let's say 5.47. So my spread to the Treasury is 2%, and that's the competition. I bring in deposits. My competition is a very safe investment, or that's what I'm going to invest it in. When I want to lend that money out, I'm going to cash in that very safe investment and extend my yield and put it in a car loan. So here's a couple of examples. Here I'm looking at CDs over time. And in this example, they implemented funds transfer pricing about mid-year. And you can see there's their portfolio. Here's their new production CDs, number originated, the average size. And their average rate that they were paying was 233 for the portfolio, 225, 208. And you can see it's changing over time because that's the competition. That's real world. Rates are always going up, always going down, and I have to match those rates. But if I'm not comparing it to my alternative investment, which would be those yield treasuries, I have no idea if the rates that I'm paying on those CDs are good, bad, or indifferent. So there was a spread, but you'll notice the spread ticked up in June once they implemented funds transfer pricing. They started tracking it. And why? Why were they doing that? Even though the portfolio is $102 million, it's a lot of money, and they were making interest spread, when they considered the servicing costs and the payment costs, the portfolio was barely breaking even. Let's say losing money, if you will. Once they were armed with information on what is the spread on those CDs versus U.S. Treasuries, the bankers would increase or decrease the rate. In this case, they decreased the rate to get a little bit more spread. You only need a couple of basis points. And they started doing this over time. As you can see, the portfolio started to overcome all the servicing costs. And now this bank is making a lot more money by being armed with funds transfer pricing. All right, so that's an example of how funds transfer pricing is going to make your bank stronger, product by product, instrument by instrument, customer by customer. Once you know what your products are versus a very safe instrument and safe security, and you start pricing accordingly, your earnings are going to get better instrument by instrument, and you're going to be a much stronger institution. Okay, I hope you found that information helpful. That's funds transfer pricing in a nutshell, comparing your loans and deposits to safe securities. U.S. Treasuries is a common example. All right, so we're going to post this link on our Solver website for the banking website page. We're going to paste this on our credit union page as well as our Solver YouTube USA channel. I hope you found this helpful. Write in your questions, comments. Again, always ask for more examples. I hope you found this helpful. My name again is Dan Havey with Solver, and hope you have a great day.